They just saw Fashion Valet close down, so that's it. Vivy Yusof is cancelled. How can people celebrate her? She's clearly not a good entrepreneur. Oh, I had to read articles about my failures from people who didn't even interview me. Where are you getting all these assumptions?
Social media platforms and creative-focused startups haven't looked too hot coming into 2023, with companies like Meta and Snapchat waging off layoffs along with the rest of the tech industry. But the creator and influencer economy are more than just buzzwords losing interest among VCs. Despite challenges on a platform level, blogger turned entrepreneur Vivy Yusof is a case study of just how retained attention is a currency that will continue to be important in 2023 and beyond. But of course, the journey is never easy. While Vivy today boasts 1.8 million followers, which she attributes to her success in many of her chapters, Vivy in the recent years has had to swallow the bitter pill of a failing business in the public light, resulting in a massive pivot. FashionValet.com, an online marketplace that once stocked over 400 brands across Southeast Asia, became a major regional player in the fashion industry, but by 2022, she had wound the venture down, shifting her focus to her own in-house modest fashion brands, Duck and Lilit. The silver lining? By 2022, Yusof had built a network of 14 physical stores across Malaysia and Singapore and sold more than 3 million scarves from just one of her brands. Today, we unpack Vivy's journey, the cost of building a brand around herself, her regret on not acting on her gut sooner, and her billion-dollar ambitions for next decade in the modest fashion industry. You don't want to miss it. Vivy Yusof. Vivy Yusof is a name that we've heard over and over again, loved by millions of women. Vivy, how are you?
I'm good. I'm so happy to be. This is my first podcast, Sarah, with you.
Oh, I am so honored. I am so honored. So we will live up to expectations. I always say, we rise to the occasion, and what better way, because we both got the memo. I was vibing with you even before we got started. Well, Vivy, we are heading towards the end of the year. You've just released your book, which has taken you about 2 years, as you've told me previously. How does it feel?
Oh my God, I have it here. I go to sleep with it.
Yes.
But I started my journey as a blogger. As you know, I started very early on in university. I love writing. Even though I went through the entrepreneur journey, I'm still going through it. Writing has always been like my passion, my form of therapy, so to come full circle and actually write a book about the journey for the 10 years, is surreal. And I'm the most impatient person and so not disciplined. So writing a book really forces you to do that. You have to relive each memory, the good and the bad. You have to uncover again all the mistakes you've done, which is really hard, to go through that again and write about it, So I think I like to do things fast. So I was pretty surprised that this book took me almost 2 years. I thought it would be a 3 months thing. Very naive of me. Still, having my job and having 4 children, it's a miracle that this has launched, and I'm really happy. I published it with Penguin, so now it's going to be a global distribution, hopefully. So hopefully it'll be in the US and in the Europe and all of that soon.
Yes, I already got my Kindle copy, so I have been digging in, and I'm so excited. Yeah, I've been digging in, the K-drama of you and Fadza and the hair blowing and all that. I love it. I love it all. But let's get started. I mean, in true billion-dollar moves fashion, Vivy, we go deep, as raw and as unfiltered as can be on billion-dollar moves. And I want to really understand, some context, right? Give our audience a little bit of context of how Vivy Yusof came to be. I know you talked about a little bit about the joy of writing from day one, but go even further back than that. As a child, were you always set up to be this Vivy Yusof you imagined?
Ooh, Okay, so I was born and raised in Kuala Lumpur. It's the capital of Malaysia. And I am the youngest out of two siblings. So my sister, my elder sister, is 7 years older than me. So she was off to boarding school. So basically I was alone, and when you're alone, I guess there's all this like creativity coming in your mind. And I loved like role playing by myself. I was like putting on my teddy bears aligned, and I've always been a little bit bossy. So my mom has told me that there's always been that leadership in me since young. I've always been the bossy one, telling the whole family where to eat, what to do, what time to sleep, so she saw that in me. And writing was very much influenced by Sweet Valley Kids. Do you know that series?
Yes, I love Sweet Valley. My goodness.
So I used to collect it. That would be like the highlight, of my day, going to the bookstore and getting like the new edition. And so I've always loved writing and imagining and storytelling and creating. I think it makes sense that now I am an entrepreneur. I am still the bossy me. I still love creating something out of nothing. I love creating products. I love fashion. I created this blog. I did not know where it would take me. And it's pretty crazy how everything falls into place. Because when you start a blog, it's literally just, hey, just writing at that time, writing dumb things, like you're in university, you're just sharing your thoughts and your lifestyle and, whatever, where you ate, to me, it was just something fun, and it still is. But I never would have foreseen getting millions of people tuning in. I think even until today, that feels really surreal.
Yeah. So tell us, I mean, this blogging, activity, right? I mean, it feels so recent, but it's also a while ago. I mean, it's hard to imagine that your career really started with a blog. Tell us a little bit more about the birth of your blog. What were you writing about, and how you actually, what actually made you grow a following in some way.
Yeah, gosh, I mean, I started it when I was in university. My friend set it up for me because she's like, you know what, like you like to write, like blogging is the new thing, you got to be on it. So I'm like, okay, I guess, what do I write about, So I actually graduated in law in LSE, London School of Economics. So completely different. And while I should have been in law school reading, I found more pleasure in writing, and it's just daily things. And the interesting thing that, my husband, when he was my boyfriend then, so he saw me through it. He was like, blogging comes so naturally for you. Like you would write something that's like, a whole page long, but it only took you 10 minutes. So it wasn't a chore. It didn't take up much time, but I was consistent. Sometimes I would even put 2 entries a day. So I think having the sincerity that you just love doing it, and not for fame, not for more viewership, not to get viral, is literally just writing from the heart to myself. For the longest time, I never knew how to read the statistics or whatever on the WordPress or the Blogspot, right? So
yeah,
I had no idea who I was talking to. And I was terrified when I found out that I was talking to my dad. Here I am writing about the parties, and my dad on the other side in Malaysia. The blog was how he kept in touch with me, like knowing my whatabouts, So so I went anonymous for a while. My faces were pixelated because I was terrified of him finding out. And then on my graduation day, he came and he told me like, okay, so you've done all this, now you got to think about your career, where do you want to work, blah blah blah. Oh, by the way, you should continue blogging. And I'm like, what? You knew? And he was like, of course, I'm your dad. I know everything else. Oh. But him giving me that blessing, I wrote about this in the book, is what kind of catalyzed everything. The growth after that was just exponential because I started revealing my name, myself, my OOTDs at that time, So his blessing really opened doors for me. And that's how I think it just grew. And then Instagram, it's been great. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think this happens a lot in Asia, in that I think the celebrity factor um happens what feels like suddenly and quickly, right, with certain people. And I wonder, I've always wanted to ask you this question. When you think about what you were writing about, who you were putting forward into the interwebs, right? What do you think resonated with people, and why do you think you really hit it off as a celebrity in some way?
Sorry, I really don't like the celebrity word for me. Because to me, like celebrity, okay, actress, singer, So I think it was really tough for people to put me in any bucket. I'm first and foremost a blogger at the time, and then became an entrepreneur, right? And because I had the following already when I was an entrepreneur, they immediately called me celebrity entrepreneur. And I'm like, what does that mean? So I think I still feel a little uncomfortable when people call me celebrity, because I don't think of myself as that at all. If anything, I'm just an entrepreneur that has a little bit of influence and a bit of following online. That's it. And I ironically, I think people follow me because I'm not a celebrity. They just want someone relatable, someone maybe even just like them. And because they read. I think the power of words and writing and storytelling is so powerful, because people feel like they know you. And they've seen you, because I've been doing it consistently since uni days. They feel like they've been a part of my life, a part of my growth, my getting married, my starting a business, my having my first, second, third, fourth child, like they were there. And this is the feedback that I get every time I meet them. And they're like, I feel like I know you, like I know your kids. And it gets a bit weird sometimes, because we even had a reality show to promote the business. And it got to a point where my kids got so famous that we would go to weddings. People would come and kiss them on the cheek. Strangers. And we were eating at a restaurant one day, and someone just sat down and sat with us while we were eating and had a conversation. So it got a little bit, okay, is this normal? Like I'm not sure, but that gets a little bit weird sometimes. But I'm still really grateful that this is the community that really basically raised me. Yeah.
As some of you may know, Bill and Dollar Moves is proud to now be a part of the Creators Program at the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. That means we're also in good company with podcasts like CEO School, hosted by Sunira Madani, committed to closing the gender gap and helping more women level up by sharing stories and strategies from powerful women in leadership. Yep, because nothing bad happens when women make more money. I particularly love the episode with OG Girl Boss, Sophia Amoroso, on building companies and failing hard on the grand public stage. Listen to CEO School wherever you get your podcasts. And we want to jump a little bit to the business, but you brought up a very interesting topic that I did want to dig in a little bit deeper, with regard to what you said, right? The fact that you've had some influence, you continue to have that influence, but importantly, you're putting every single element of your life, including your kids, your family, everything else. Everybody knows or thinks they know you, right? The version of you that's out there. What have been some of the challenges in that for you?
Well, I think it's a choice that you make. This was my path. Everybody's path is different. Some people are extremely private. Some people are extremely public, whatever works for them at that time. For me, I started as a blogger, and I started to share lots of things, even from then, even before the business, even before the kids. So it's kind of like just going along with it, and I've had many episodes where I stop and think, like, am I sharing too much? And that's just honest, right? I don't think any influencer who had sudden fame and then had a business and the business kicked off would not think about this. They definitely would think about this. When you get to your 30s, do you still want to do, like sharing everything? When you get to your 40s, do you still want to do makeup tutorials? You think about that. And right now I'm at a very I guess, a transition phase where I do think about this, and I'm thinking I already have investors. The business is not cute anymore. It's a proper organization now with, institutional investors. And here I am like, hey guys, welcome to my house. Like, do I still want to be that persona for the brand? And I loved your last episode with Rana, where you talked about decoupling your identity from the business, right? Because the entire business had me, like, my face there, right? So it's very hard. I'm at that stage where I'm thinking, okay, I got 4 kids now. Do I want to share less? But what does that mean for the people who have followed me all this while, So I'm still going along, but I'm following my gut. If I feel like I shouldn't share that, I won't share it. For example, I moved house and people have been asking for a house tour, because it's normal, like for the vlogging world or the blogger world. But that's something I haven't yet been able to do. And I feel like that's something I want to probably keep for myself and my family, right? And then there are the security things like your kid's school, your cars, your plate numbers, your address. You just don't give that away, because you don't know who's watching. As much as I love that there are so many women supporting me, I'm sure there are some, I don't know who's out there, right? Watching. So I tend to be a bit more cautious now, especially after becoming a mother. But, the tough parts about building a business so publicly is that your mistakes really get aired and amplified, 10 times. For many businesses, if there's a customer complaint, they solve it, they, replace the product or, say sorry and all that. But for me, it becomes viral, it becomes news in the media, it becomes like, oh my God, Vivy sent the wrong order to this person. The pros are good, but the cons are also there, and everything we do, there's pros and cons. So I've learned to be thick-faced about it. And there are some things in the media I cannot control. And it's just so much misinformation that I just get so upset sometimes. But I've learned to pick my battles, because I cannot refute every single news about me or about the brand in the news, especially on Twitter.
Yeah, you don't want to go down that rabbit hole. And I know you have. And I know you have as well, and then suffered from that. But okay, so this is an important topic that we'll come back to. But let's go back to you and Fadza building this partnership, both personally and professionally, resulting in the birth of a brand, Fashion Valet. How did that all come to be? I mean, both of you were just in your 20s. This was long before the e-commerce boom in Southeast Asia in a big way. Tell us a little bit about that chapter.
I think we were so blessed because we did it at the right time. We had just graduated from the UK. I was from LSE. Fadza did aeronautical engineering in Imperial. So completely nothing to do. And then you come back and you sell women's clothes. His dad still makes jokes about that. Send you so far away studying about aeroplanes, and you come back and do something completely different, But that's our path. We came back after being very accustomed to shopping online in the UK. There's ASOS at that time. There's, Sainsbury, Tesco, all these like very, very in tune with shopping online. When we came back, we realized in our own country, in Malaysia, there was nothing like it. It was very infant stage. There wasn't any big players coming in yet. So we thought, and I saw that, I have a following online. So this is an opportunity that we should grab, right? And the idea came when he was driving me from store to store, and he was like, can't all of these stores just be in one place, and online, so we don't have to leave our house? And I'm like, oh. And then he also went, oh, should we do that? And it just went like from that idea to the website launch, fashionvalet.com, .net at that time. It was 1 month, Sarah. Like, we did everything, set up the company, come up with the idea, talking to the web builders, talking to the designers that we wanted to consign, getting their stock, photo shooting, uploading, editing, and pressing live. All that was 1 month. So we went full throttle. Like it was just obsession. And I wrote about this in my book. Obsession is really needed to make something successful. That was all we could think about. I slept thinking about Fashion Valet. I woke up thinking about Fashion Valet. It was so exciting. And I think every entrepreneur, every founder can relate to this when the beginnings, right? The early days, it's just so nice and so fulfilling. And, at the same time, you're hopeful. You're like, hopefully people will like it. I'm working so hard. I don't know where this is going, but hey, like, let's just do this. We're young, and thankfully, we had a bit of cushion for us because I have a following. So at least I had a platform to kind of tell people like, hey, come to this website. Like your girl just launched something, and people were so happy. And the website was horrible. The photos when we launched were yellow, because we did not know anything about photography. And who was the one that shaped us and helped us navigate through this was literally our customers. So it was literally my blog readers and my supporters, my followers that helped me maneuver. They're like, hey, how come you don't have filters? Like, how come there's no, tops and then long sleeves and short sleeves? And we're like, oh yeah, okay, got to do that.
And so Fashion Valet, when you started it, fashionvalet.net, when you were, I guess this was towards the end of your university, what was your following like at that point in time?
My following? I can't remember. But at that time, there was no Instagram yet. So I did not have, 1.8 million followers, but I did have like maybe a few thousand readers on my, so they were the ones who helped me grow, really.
So you had your 1,000 true fans.
1,000 true fans. Yeah. And
at least, right?
Being the pioneer, doing it in your country, really helps you gain media love, because you're the first, you're the pioneer. So we also were so indebted to the media because they were like writing about this website that carried local designers, and it was such a nice cause, right? Like, of course, I've pivoted since then. It's been 12 years, but at that time when we launched it, everybody was rooting for it because how can you not? Like a platform of building many local entrepreneurs, that's beautiful, so even for us, like in the early days, we weren't, that fueled us, knowing that if we make it, all these 100 designers make it too, so that was the camaraderie spirit that we had, among all of us. And because we were the only one at that time, so all the attention was on us. Everybody wanted to support this cause of building your own local talents and giving them the platform. And, I miss it, even though, that's no longer in our path. And we've said goodbye to that business because it commercially, it didn't make business sense, because the supply was not consistent and we were dealing with, very, very small enterprises. So it was hard to scale. And, but I miss doing it because it was such a nice cause.
Yeah, and Fadza at that point in time, he was with when you guys were just getting started, he was with Deloitte, wasn't he?
Yeah. So he was probably the worst employee there. He would be like 7 a.m. at our office with our friend, doing orders and stuff. And he's like, oh man, I gotta go work. So then he's like, okay, then he'll go, at 9 or whatever. And then he'll come back right on the dot at 6 p.m., leave the office like goodbye. But I think his boss knew that this was something else. And even his boss encouraged him, like, I think you should do this, full time. This has potential. E-commerce is booming, and I really want to see you succeed here. So it was really, it was obvious that his heart wasn't there. And, it was nice that his peers encouraged him, like, go do this, go make us proud, and he left after, I don't know, like almost a year. He also got really left out. I think when you see, like, if it's 3 people, right, and then 2 people are so close doing all these things and making things happen, you're in another place, you get a bit like, oh, I want to be a part of that. Like, that's mine too, So he quickly left and joined when we saw traction already in revenue.
And what was, one of the key issues that we see with a lot of startups is actually, finding the right co-founder, right? And you found that in your husband. How did
Married.
that all that marry your co-founder? Well, we don't all have that option. But how did you both decide? I mean, this is strategic as well, right? In which it's almost like you're both all in some way
Mm.
in one endeavor. This is going to work or this is not. How did both
Yes.
of you arrive at this decision that both of you were going to work at it, and what were your roles respectively?
Yeah, I think it's logic mixed with a little bit of naivety. When you're young and in love, you're like, yeah, let's do this together, you and me. Like, yeah, things are gonna go so well. Let's get married. So it's a little bit of that, but it's also how I analyzed our personalities. We complement each other so well. So this is the advice I give young entrepreneurs as well. Like when you find a co-founder, try to find someone who's the opposite of you, in skill sets, right? So for me, I'm a people person. I like going out. I like marketing. I like product. He loves finance, strategy, operations, things that I don't necessarily enjoy. So us put together, it was like a dream team, and on top of that, we also are so aligned in personal lives as well, so actually in a way it made it easier because after we got married, like we were even more aligned because all our eggs are in this basket. Like it's all or nothing, like you said, right? So we got to make it work, so when your interests are aligned and the stakes are that high, you get even closer. And it's such a good partnership. I can't imagine doing this without him. And it's so funny, like when we talk to our other married friends, our married couples, and we're like, what do you guys talk about at home? Like, because you guys lead different lives at work. So when you come home, it's like, if you talk about work, you don't know who I'm talking about, and I don't know who you're talking about. So I'm like, like, what did they talk about? For us, this is it. Our lives are just one, so we're so dependent on each other, and the partnership at work and at home really works so far, fingers crossed. Like this is,
Wow.
Everything's good. But I would say, I think it's pretty rare that a husband and wife can work together as well, because I realize now that actually that's not the norm, and my friends don't want to work with their husbands, so I think we're one of a kind really so far.
Yeah, and how do you, I mean, bring out the best in each other? As you said, right, this is not normal in a large way. A lot of there are, couples in running businesses and all that, but there's often a lot of tension. There's this. How do you manage times when it gets really difficult?
Yeah, so we made a pact where we have to talk about the big strategic things, just the two of us first. We need to be aligned before we go into a meeting. So before any meeting, we know what the objective is, what we want from this, and we align first so that we don't look like, haphazard in front of everyone, like, so we are very respectful of each other in that way. We also made another rule that we have to solve arguments immediately. So there's no dragging on. I don't talk to you for 2 days. I give you silent treatment for a week. That never happens with us because it really affects work. So you can't drag it on. Like it's not even an option, because we have to look, I was upset that you did this. I didn't like that, you said this, can we talk about this? And one of us will, okay, sorry about that. That won't happen again, or we would argue some more and come to a landing. So there's no argument that we have that doesn't have a landing. We must land, because then we have our meeting after that, or there's a work trip, or we got to go home to our kids. So we don't drag things. And I think that's worked really well for us, because nothing gets held in. Like it's all out and it's solved. Next, so that is very important, I think, especially when you're leading an organization of like 300 people. It cannot be, whether these founders have an argument or not, that things, progress, right?
You've done your reflection, right, of your first decade. If you were to think about the times when you both argued about something, was there I guess, a pattern of, what these disagreements would be, I mean, was because you're both very different, right? I mean, for me, we talk a lot about diversity being very healthy, and diversity of thought is healthy, but it's also very difficult to actually manage. When you think about that between both of you, is there anything, I mean, that you picked up from reflecting on your time working together?
I think, yes, there is a pattern. And the pattern is always, I think it's not fast enough. Because I'm the impatient one. I'm the one that's like, let's go, let's do this now. Let's take this project and that project. Oh, another project. Oh, opportunity. So I'm more of like let's jump in and do everything. Let's just jump in to the point where it may be detrimental, to our focus, and shifting our focus a little bit. Because I guess that's the entrepreneur in me, that, I just want to, every opportunity is a potential for something, right? So we argue a lot about that, about, I need to say no more, and he needs to be faster, so we have a lot of arguments about speed and whether we grab opportunities that come our way or not. And those are big decisions and big discussions, because they're all strategic, right? And if we take this, say if you want to start another brand, then everything in the group will be affected. So it's really big discussions, and I think the bigger the business is now, the more difficult these conversations get. To be honest, like the stakes are higher, and now we have investors to answer to, so everything must be calculated. So our personalities mixed together hopefully will help us find this balance, especially moving forward now to the second decade.
Absolutely. And, talking about being opportunistic and riding the right wave when it hits you, you started Fashion Valet at an interesting time. It grew traction very quickly. And as you said, you got support from the locals. But then Rocket Internet came in, and that actually put fire, beneath your feet in some way. How did that shape, I guess, the trajectory of your business with competition coming in?
Rocket Internet coming in was super scary for us because, two young founders, suddenly there's a big conglomerate, billion-dollar valuations coming in. We're like, okay, goodbye. This is it. This was fun. So we got really scared. But I think the fire in me lit up. I was like, no, I'm not going to back down. And that's why we started talking about fundraising. So if anything, Rocket Internet actually helped us grow. Our competitor helped us grow tremendously because we started gearing up. We knew that we couldn't grow exponentially if we didn't have funds, if we didn't have capital. And so fundraising became an option, which, is pretty scary for two young founders. Like people talk about investment, like, and VCs, like, people in suits, with jargons and valuations, la, la, la. But for us, it's like learning about this. It's intimidating, it's scary. So we had to learn. And of course, in true Vivy fashion, it had to be in front of the nation because we joined a reality show about getting funding. And if you win, you get funding at the end. And we did all the way, so that was in front of the nation and it was on TV. So if we failed, we royally failed, like in front of everyone, so to me, it's like go big or go home,
right?
Even if we lose, even if we lose and didn't get this investment, at least we got marketing traction on TV, which we can't afford,
Sure.
So to me, it was a win-win either way. But we did get the investment. And I think, I don't know if you can relate to this or any founder here, but once you get the first investment, you kind of get addicted and you want to raise again and again. And, like it becomes like a drug that you need to, like, raise your valuation. You need to, like, prove to people, you need to get more funds because it's like, glamorous or sexy or you've made it, when actually no, because that's the beginning of like your a new stress level is gone up, right? The pressures have gone up. Now you got to hit your targets.
We all have bad habits, like, I don't know, procrastinating on that to-do list that's getting longer and longer. And bad habits tend to find their way into business too. From emailing clients at who knows o'clock or spending way too much time and money on legacy software your IT person grandfathered in. Well, we're breaking up with the bad business habits and breaking in new ways to bring our A game in 2023. HubSpot's all-in-one connected CRM platform can help you there. It makes it easy to better connect your teams, data, and systems so you can better connect with your customers. Best of all, it's free to get started. Learn how HubSpot can help your business grow better in 2023 and get a special offer of 20% off on eligible plans at HubSpot.com/billion-dollar-moves. At that time, I mean, what year was this? Remind us again.
2012. So we started in 2010. 2012 was when internet came in, and we also got funding. And then there were subsequent rounds of funding after that.
Right. So in 2012, that was when Rocket Internet came in for the North American audience. It's, the equivalent of, what would you call it? Amazon, right? In a big way, because they have all sorts, including fashion as well.
Yeah.
And they were bringing in all sorts of brands. And your strategy at that point in time was still local designers, right? Was it still that at that point in time?
Yep, we went all the way with that. So local designers was our niche, and when Zalora came in, we were like, okay, so do we grow now? Do we go head to head with them? And I think we tried that a bit, and we realized that it wasn't going to work because we didn't have the funds that they had. So it was much better to niche. And even our customers were like, what are you guys doing carrying brands like, Maybelline, or like, it just didn't make sense. Like, you guys are all about local. So what are you trying to be? So we were like, okay, we can't follow our competitors. So I think that was my lesson, where I'm like, never try to be like your competitor, find your edge and just go all the way with that, and don't try to be someone else. So I think that's a huge lesson that I learned that carried me on until now. Like, even with Duck and Lilit, I'm always aware of what competitors are doing, but I always stop myself, like, never try to be tempted to be like them, because you have your own niche, you have your own specialty, and you need to double down on that instead of wanting to be like everyone else.
Yeah. And what was your, niche at that point in time? Was it just any local designer, or how were you thinking about the business at that time? What did Fashion Valet seek to represent?
Yeah, it was literally that, local designers, because at that time, the local designer scene was quite small here. So it was the intent of wanting to grow it, and with Fashion Valet having more funding, we actually could fund the designers to make their collections, because a lot of the designers, they're smaller, right? So it's not like they're Nike or Zara, that has, capital to keep running and running. Some of them run from collection to collection. So if they didn't make money from this collection, there would be no second collection, right? So I think Fashion Valet in a big way helped a lot of designers, because we funded each collection. And we helped even with marketing, we helped with the platform. We even co-designed some things with them in collaboration. So we kind of spurred a lot of activity in the local fashion industry, which before this was very small. So it was, we were really known for that. We were really known to support local. The problem with that is that when we try to scale to other countries, which of course is something we want. Like, as an entrepreneur, I want to be a global brand. Whatever it is I make or sell, I want to be global. I don't want to just be a Malaysian brand. I want to be a global brand, right? So then we start realizing that, like, we've gone too nationalistic with this. Malaysian local designers, like, how do we sell this to Middle East? How do we sell this to the US? How do we sell this to even our neighbors like Indonesia? I think that was something that hit us. But me, especially being a very stubborn entrepreneur, I'm like, no, we can make it work. People will love it. Don't worry. We'll try anyway. So we did that, and I should have followed my gut, because I think I knew that this wasn't a relevant product for that market. It was difficult to scale this, and yet I still wanted to try and prove that it could work. So we pivoted, but I think if I followed my gut, we would have pivoted a lot sooner and stopped ourselves from burning.
Yeah, and this notion of having to pivot, right? And holding out, giving it a try and things like that. I think that every entrepreneur goes through that journey, right? Because as you said, we're obsessed to the point that sometimes reality is warped.
Yeah.
And in some way, you were trying your best here. But what was it that really told you, I guess, what was the inflection point that this is really not going to work? What was the wake up call that said, okay, we need to do something else here?
Yeah. Okay, so it wasn't one moment, I think we were introduced to the numbers that was already telling that, okay, we're not really getting much from here. So we suddenly have a lot of dead inventory of various local designers. And worse was that these local designers were also working with our competitors, with Zalora, because they were also offering, lucrative deals. So it got like, why are we doing this? Like what for? Like it's just the numbers don't look good. Designers are working with our competitors. It's like what for? Like this is not going well. And when we started failing internationally, like one by one, we're like, okay, we don't have product market fit. And culturally, fashion is so different also, so it got very difficult to scale. The numbers don't look good. Our vendors were working with competitors. So it just, all this, I think, put together, gave us a wake up call. But it wasn't a one wake up call where I would wake up and like, okay, today's it, no. It was
Yeah.
multiple discussions, not just with Fadza, but also with mentors, also with our team, and I think we knew, but putting the hammer on it, I don't know, like maybe other founders can relate. Like it's so hard, it's your baby, to say like bye, like no more is very difficult. But a blessing was that we started Duck and other house brands. So Duck is 8 years old now. So in our Fashion Valet journey, thank God we built in-house brands, because that really helped us. It subsidized Fashion Valet heavily, to a point where I wrote this in the book as well, that at one point, our house brands were contributing 90% of revenue of the entire group.
Wow.
So we're like, what else? What other signs do we need? Like, come on, it's time, and the pandemic was actually, that told us like, okay, this it's inevitable. Because honestly, we had conversations where let's just run this simultaneously. Let's have the platform and also our in-house brands. Let's just do that. So one would subsidize the other. Maybe that's okay. Maybe that's a good like overall business model. So Fashion Valet was like in the loss, but here's our other house brands that were very profitable. So it minuses out. That's what we were like trying to save this Fashion Valet platform. But when the pandemic hit, suddenly the local brands, there were just no more supply, and Fashion Valet became just our brands in new arrivals, right? So we were like, okay, I think it's not fair for the brands because they have so much potential to grow on their own in separate ways, right? But we're lumping them together in one marketplace forever. It wasn't going to be good for the long-term growth of these brands. So yeah, it was multiple conversations.
So when you think about sort of and I've heard you say this, your margins were something like from 30% with Duck and Lilit, your own brand, that was 50% and beyond. So clearly, the business was telling you that this was going to work out. How was the unraveling of the previous version of Fashion Valet? How did that all happen?
Yeah, I thought, pivoting would be so simple. Okay, this won't work now, just move on, but actually, hey, wait a minute. We have so many stakeholders. We have our investors that we have to explain this to and sell and convince this new direction. We also have our team, who's so invested in, wanting to build up the local fashion industry that, okay, so that means their purpose has changed here. Like, I worried about that as well, like the morale, of our team. And then I had to tell the designers, like, hey, I'm not going to sell you anymore. So, nice knowing you, like, it was like, what do I say? Right. And then the fourth one was our customers and the public at large. And I know that, being in the spotlight, being in very public in my country, our mistakes get celebrated by the haters too, like they're waiting, for this to happen. And I just, we had many discussions about preparing ourselves for each of the stakeholders. For the investors, we're going to do this. They are the ones we have to explain this first. Okay, once they're in, all good. Like then it's all operations execution after that, right? So we had like, I think, daily stand-ups. We called this the Project Sunset, and that project had a committee. We went through every single thing. Like we had to build website and apps for the brands, and then transition the customers to that website and app and leave Fashion Valet. So we had to do a lot of like exclusive deals. Ooh, it wasn't like a 1 month thing. It was a 2-year plan. It was a 2-year progression from telling the designers like, okay, we are gonna close down Fashion Valet, the marketplace. We need to return your stock, all these things, and that process went first. So by the time we actually closed down the website, everyone internally already knew, because we've been talking about it for a year. It's been in the process for that long, so they weren't surprised. Designers didn't say anything because they knew, but it was news to the public. And I think, it was bittersweet. I think then the haters started coming out and like, told you that, this girl's a scam, blah, blah, blah. Like I had to go through so much public humiliation, because people didn't know the extent of the whole story. They didn't know that actually we were profitable as a group, and we are closing down the unprofitable unit. So it's a good thing for the business. But they didn't know that. They just saw Fashion Valet close down. So that's it. Vivy Yusof is canceled. How can people celebrate her? She's clearly not a good entrepreneur. Oh, I had to read articles about my failures from people who didn't even interview me. Where are you getting all these assumptions?
If I may, one of the criticisms was also that you were basically copying, right? Some of the designs that you claim to be supporting. And that was one of the big ones that really hit you hard, I think. How did you resolve that? And did you feel you made mistakes in handling that?
Well, I think I feel sad because these claims were just claims on social media that had no proof or even had any legality around it. Like a scarf is a scarf, like a floral print. If I do another floral print, I'm a plagiarist. Or I had a photo shoot where the theme was artsy, artists. So artists painting with like the ladder and the easel and all that. And because another brand did that a few years ago, I'm a plagiarist, or, one person did a turban, with 2 strings to tie it up. And, because I also did a turban with strings, I'm a plagiarist, when it's a common product. So one of the worst ones I got was a scarf. I wanted to, because we're always trying to innovate, trying to see the lifestyle of our customers and how to make it easier. So one of the ideas was an instant scarf. So when you put the scarf here and then the magnets just clip together and that's it, done. So it's not a new thing. It's not a lot of brands have used magnets before, but this one founder did a TikTok video that went viral, having millions of views, because he was crying. And he was like, how can this big brand do this to me? She completely plagiarized me. And here I am. I'm just a small brand trying to make ends meet, and it's like he got so much love and support. And I got in turn so much hate and like people wanting to like throw stuff at me, right? Because I'm always going to be seen as the big brand bullying smaller brands, even if I've never heard of them or seen their products, or even if the products are generic products in the market already, So I find that to be sometimes hard to deal with, because it's okay if I did it, then I'm like, okay, like it's my mistake. But if I didn't do it and if I never heard of them, how can you just accuse someone of that? Then the public at large endorses it as truth. That hurts, But so any news I read now I take it with a pinch of salt, because I'm like, you don't know the other side, right? People can make claims, suddenly it's truth. It's not fair. Yeah.
And it's fascinating how, we started this story with you being the underdog that was loved by the public and people were rooting for you. And suddenly, Vivi is now the big brand.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. So I think I in a way I miss being the darling, where like we're supporting all the other brands and people we're like a team, but when that
Mm,
doesn't work out anymore, suddenly it just became like like she's now the bad guy.
yeah.
And honestly, Sarah, like I think personally, it's a little bit hard. I think it took me about 2 years to kind of deal with this personally, because in social media I still need to be like, hey, everything's great, but inside it hurts when people who were a team now were like lashing out at each other on social media. So one thing I do is I never engage on social media. I personally
Mm-hmm.
message them like, hey, let's talk, like this didn't happen and I'm really sorry that you thought it did, but let's have a conversation about it. And the response I get is more posts on social media. So clearly it's not to solve problems or to, it's just clout. Like they need the attention. Unfortunately, bad news makes better news, and people ride on that. And I think people forget that behind all of that, the target is a human being, like I'm also trying to make the best of whatever I have. And I also think, I work hard and
Yeah.
I don't do these bad things to people, but people like to villainize, figures, and
Mm-hmm.
it just becomes popular to do so. So the advice that I get from wiser people is just keep quiet and just it's a long-term game, and you just need to prove yourself and just don't pick fights with people on social media. Which that one I agree.
And so talking about long-term game, you've built the in-house brand Duck for a while now. And it's now, a brand in itself that holds strong and is a big part of what the next decade is going to be about. Tell us a little
Yeah.
bit more about, your shift, frankly, to modest fashion, right, in a large way, and what this means to you.
Yeah, I love this shift because it was also nudged by my customers. Because
Mm,
I we were a normal, platform neutral, and suddenly like the more of the modest fashion pieces start getting sold more. So the data was telling us that people were interested in modest fashion. Maybe also it's largely Malaysia, so we're Muslim majority. Our and Singapore and Brunei were also our biggest markets. So modest fashion became a focus even during Fashion Valet days. So when I started Duck, it was out of my personal journey of starting to wear the hijab. I started experimenting with it. I started shopping for other brands, and I just didn't find a brand that really resonated with me. Very international feel, very progressive. You want to show Muslim women as progressive, modern people who have careers, who have families, who travels, who can speak English. Like I think that's people think like Muslim women are so subdued and like yes dear kind of people, and I didn't resonate with that. So I myself am a strong Muslim woman, a modern one. I have friends from all over the world, and that's the part that I want to show, that there's this brand that speaks about those values: traveling, discovering, learning, being one with everyone else. So I started it myself. So it became a premium modest fashion brand. And we started with just scarves and we would sell out. And then we would be
mm.
the first brand in Malaysia to work with international names like Disney, Barbie, Starbucks, Baskin Robbins.
And I'm glad you brought this up, though. You talked about your personal journey being reflected also in your business, and I sort of shared this with you, and hopefully you'll get a chance to view it. But we had one of the faces of the no hijab movement, right, in Iran, with them being forced to actually wear the hijab, unlike in Malaysia and many Muslim countries where women are actually, this is your choice, right? So
Yeah.
can you tell us a little bit about, what this means to you and why this is an important part of your business with, modest fashion?
Yeah. So modest fashion was actually, nudged by our customers. Our data was telling us, okay, a lot more people, a lot of our customers at least, are interested in modest fashion. So the scarves would sell out, the longer sleeves and the longer lengths would sell out. So I knew that, okay, when I started my own brands, I want to go into modest fashion. And it makes sense for me as well, because I was also on my journey to wear the hijab. I didn't really see it as a bigger global movement or anything. It was literally just me in KL. The culture here is it's very accepted. And it's very okay if you don't wear it either. So I have friends who wear it, I have friends who don't wear it. It's really your choice. So it's not anything that people force onto you, so then when I wore it, I felt good. Like I just wanted to transition into another phase of my life as a Muslim woman. I wanted to be known as a Muslim woman. I was proud, and I just felt beautiful in it. To me, it was my choice. I wanted it, and I was at a point in my life where I really wanted to do this for my own faith. It was my journey with God. To me, it was very intimate. It was just between me and him, but because I'm public as well,
Yeah.
started becoming a movement, and suddenly people were also interested in wearing the hijab as well, and I'm like, okay, like I don't know, I guess good for you, like if you want to also own it as a Muslim woman, right? And I it's only when I started going overseas wearing the hijab, because this is after uni and all that,
Sure.
I started feeling a little bit different. Because I went to the US because I wore the hijab. They put me in a room, after security, they put me in another room, and I'm like, what did I do? Like do I look like I could harm people? I'm like this tiny little girl, and my husband got out, but I got stuck in. They just wanted to watch me. So I felt a little bit, oh, okay, I guess it's different in other parts of the world, so only then I started realizing that different cultures see it differently, right? So for me, honestly, it's just my journey with God, and I want to do this, it's my choice. And interestingly enough, it became my business. So it just so happened that I started with scarves category, but I quickly grew it when I saw traction of the brand. I quickly grew into cosmetics. I grew into apparel. I grew into bags. So now we're actually, a modest fashion and lifestyle brand instead of a hijab brand.
Vivi, if I may to pause you there, because as mentioned, we have an American and a global audience. What does it mean to you, being able to display yourself with the hijab? When you say it's a personal relationship, this I think it helps with our understanding of what this relationship is all about it and why this is important to you and so many others around the world.
Yeah, I think it's unique to me because I started learning more about my religion, and I think this is the spiritual part of me, and spirituality is so personal, and there's
Yeah.
you can't fault people for choosing their own paths, right? So for me, I learned more. I relearned about my religion. I found it so beautiful. Like it really asks people to respect others. There's so much love for neighbors, love for other people, doing a lot of charity. And there's nowhere in there that teaches me all these things that the media is making up, like, about violence and all this. Nothing in there, right? So I think it's such a misconception in the bigger world about Islam. And for me, like, I feel like it's my responsibility then to kind of make it, like wear the hijab, show that you're a Muslim, make a business, be a millionaire, like, and then this, like, walk the talk, right? Don't just talk the talk, right? So for me,
Sure.
I think that's what differentiates me from everyone else in the larger world. When I go to conferences now, sometimes I'm the only one in hijab. When I went to BOF, for example, the gala, I was one of the only ones in hijab. And I feel like that's so beautiful because it makes me different, and it gives me an edge too. And I have this deeper connection with my faith, so I feel like it's a win-win,
Absolutely.
and I love wearing it, and I think it is a choice. I don't judge people. I don't judge Muslim women who don't wear it. That's their choice too. So, everyone's journey in faith is their own. It's their own path, their own timing. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, for your investors, it is a huge target market, right? That's growing.
Tell us
Yeah.
a little bit about, I mean, this is Takwa Tech. It's all the rage now in Southeast Asia. Tell us a little bit more about, what you're seeing and what you're excited about with the business in the next decade.
Yeah. So modest fashion is like only a $300 billion market
Only.
only. So, and the best part is pretty it's still a blue ocean there. It's not a Red Sea yet, So I feel like there isn't one like say, big brand like Zara or H&M or Uniqlo that really owns the modest fashion space. And that's where I'm dreaming to be to be. I really want to see our brand grow globally, becoming a household name in big cities. To me, it's not just about Muslim women, it's also anyone who wants to dress modestly. Not everyone wants to show skin. Women respect each other for our own choices. So there are a lot of women who feel more comfortable, showing less skin and looser clothes. And I think that's the beauty of it. I just want to give people more choices, right? And modest fashion, there isn't one global brand that has made it through all regions, like how some of the more mainstream fashion brands have. So to me, I'm like, why not? There are 2 billion Muslims in the world. Half of them women. Every one of them needs a prayer wear because we need to pray 5 times a day. That's what we've been taught. Every one of them would have to go to a wedding or a religious gathering, and they need to wear abaya or like a shawl, at least one, in their closet. So I'm like, why is this not being sold in Oxford Street or anywhere in the US? Like, why is there no store that makes it easy for us to get them when it is a necessity for 1 billion people? So to me, I'm like, no, like that's a space I want to go and I want to be in. And, of course the dream is there, but to get there is not a straight path, as as an entrepreneur, but it's like a roundabout, roller coaster. And I'm realizing that it's not as easy as it sounds, but I love that because that's the challenge.
So as you enter your next decade, having done your reflections, which actually, I mean, your book forced you to do that, to really grapple with the good, bad, and ugly.
Yes.
What were some of your mistakes that you felt in your last decade, were, some of your toughest mistakes that you definitely will want to do differently in this next decade?
Okay. For sure, listening to my gut feel. I think I doubt myself a little bit too much there, but you're the one doing the business, so actually best. Not anyone else. Second, I think I would do international expansion differently. I think we were too bullish and too overconfident with our last business model, that we're like, no, let's just go and figure it out. And then it gets expensive, to go into to other markets. So I would do that a bit more carefully this time, and do a softer approach and get traction and then go big instead of going big and then hoping traction will come. I would do that differently. I'm also at a point where I'm learning how to manage managers rather than doing it myself. Like, I'm not to say less hands-on, but I want to empower experienced managers to help me lead so that we can go together. So I'm at a point where I'm finding my own kind of leadership way. So yeah, a lot of mistakes and learnings that I am hoping to apply, in my next decade. So.
And we look forward to that. I mean, what you've built over the last couple of years, the good, bad, and ugly, I think has certainly left a legacy, Vivy, and we're so excited for your next chapter. Now, we've covered a lot of ground, and I usually end with a quick fire round. So billion-dollar questions, quick questions, no context.
Yeah.
And you just have to say the first thing that comes to mind, okay? Are you ready? Okay. Money or power, Vivy Yusof? Money or power?
Money.
Fame or fortune?
Fortune.
Okay. Highest high? What's your highest high?
Oh God, so many. I think
Just one.
Okay, no. like, what's your highest high is this? Like, I wrote a book. Like,
Yeah.
that-
All right. Lowest low.
pivoting and realizing that, the dream that you had was not, doable, yeah.
What are you now watching on Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, whatever you're watching?
I just finished watching Harry and Meghan.
Oh, and we have thoughts on that. This is a separate show.
Another episode.
Your favorite book?
My favorite book. Right now, I think it's Bob Iger, Ride of a Lifetime, and also the House book. Oh, I can't decide. That's like it's like picking your favorite child. Look, so many.
Yes. And I love how it's color coordinated, by the way. It's beautiful. Okay, so Bob Iger it is. Going once, going twice. Okay.
All right, him.
Advice for your younger self. What you wish you knew when you were younger.
Oh, oh God. Okay. To just listen to your gut and just try. Because I think my fear now is not trying. Because I've done it. I've done the failures and I'm still here. So I guess I'm no longer scared of failures because it doesn't kill you, So I'm more scared of not trying than failing.
Wow. Okay. So you have 4 kids now. I hear maybe a 5th. Is that happening?
No way. Who told you that?
Tutok kedai. Close shop. Okay. So you have 4 kids. 3 principles you want your kids to live by.
God. Ooh. To be humble.
1.
To not be afraid of trying. And to always listen to your mother.
Is that a principle? Okay, being filial piety, I suppose. Filial piety. Okay, we will take that.
Okay.
And finally, what is the legacy that Vivy Yusof will leave behind?
Vivy Yusof wants to live a legacy of telling the young people to live with sincerity. So whatever you do, do it with sincerity. Whether it's work, whether it's love, whether it's whatever you do it with love and sincerity so that you find joy in everything that you do and that you also have no regrets because you've given your all. So even if something fails, it's fine because I tried my best, I gave my all, and I enjoyed myself thoroughly. So I think I just want to remind people to just not take themselves too seriously and to just live their best life.
Love that. And with that, Vivy, I think that was a powerful note to leave on. It gave me chills a little bit, and I'm excited for the legacy that I know you will build and all that will come from it. So thank you so much for taking time.
Thank you. It was so nice talking to you.
Yeah, and where can we find your book? Where can we find you? If people want to go and find out more about you, where can we do that?
Yeah, so follow me on Instagram. I'm very active on Instagram at Vivy Yusof. And I wrote a book. So this book is going to be worldwide distribution. So wherever you are, I hope it'll be in all your major bookstores.
And thanks so much for tuning in this week. You can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and follow our socials on Sarah Chen Global to get the latest on the show. It would really help me out too if you enjoyed this to rate and review our show on Apple Podcasts and share your favorite episodes with a friend. I'm Sarah Chen-Spellings and you've been listening to $1 Billion Moves.